Welcome to part 33 of the Kicho Wong Dong series. In this month's episode, we're going to be covering a technique called Deah Tollyo Ch Ki, the pop static jump roundhouse. Now, in order to do this technique, you'll have to watch the videos on obviously the roundhouse kick and the episode I did about the jump snap kick. It's the same motion. Also, maybe worth checking out my tutorial on the two-step jump roundhouse because this kick is more difficult. With that being said, let's start straight away. You have to follow the jumping warm-up from the jump snap kick video, as I mentioned earlier. Once you have this idea of jumping and lifting your knees, we're now going to take it to the next stage where you have to jump and rotate your hips 180 degrees. Now, the way I describe this is here in the dojang we have lines. So for example, if you have your left leg forward and your right leg back, your chest will be facing one of the walls. You still look forward at a point. So again, you could use a point on the wall, a partner, a bob, anything like that, but focus forward. But I'm going to jump up and try and get my legs the opposite way around. So my chest will be now facing the other wall. And for example, if my left leg was forward before, my right leg will be forward. And I'll have turned my hips 180 degrees as you do with a basic roundhouse. So you just jump up and lift and do this a couple of times. And then the next stage then, once you've got that down, is to jump and lift both knees and lift them as high as you can to get as much air time as possible. So you can do this again by bouncing on the spot, and then eventually you'll be able to do it without bouncing at all, just by bending your knees slightly and using dynamic plyometric energy to lift yourself and twist. What I say to everyone when they start this is do not think about kicking high. Think about jumping high and kicking low. Far too often people emphasize so much on the kick that all their basics go out the way and they just can't lift their leg up and they can't do the kick. So what I'm going to show you now is some examples of doing a jump knee kick, a Deah Tollyo Ch Ki, to start by just thinking about lifting the knees here. And again, I'm showing you two versions, one with my leg dangling and one with my non-kicking leg, as I said before in the snap kick video, kicking my butt. This is very important for air time. So if I've got something dangling, that's like an anchor, an extra weight, we don't want it. If you can do the static pop jump knee kick, the roundhouse is easy. Think about the knee kick, get as high as you can, and at the very top of the kick, you just let the leg flick out and perform a roundhouse. And again, start with a low roundhouse, as low as you want. And as you get more comfortable, you can kick higher, but always not to lose form. So that is basically it for your basic drills, is just to lift up with your back leg, guards up, head up, looking forward, and just twisting and kicking. With the jumping motion, you start with bouncing on the spot. After a while, you want to try and get it without bouncing on the spot. And a little tiny common mistake that I see is people doing a half jump before they do the technique. So they sort of make a step and then turn because the 180 motion is difficult for them. So please try not to do that. So now moving on to the common mistakes. The three that come to my mind are not engaging your hip. So the first one is you do not rotate your hip all the way, and no matter how hard you kick, you won't be able to hit the target. So as I'm demonstrating here on a wave rider, you just won't be able to put much power into it. So again, turn, bring your hips past the target and then let the kick go, and that's when the power will come into it. The next one is the angle of the kick. Now this one is very common where people think they are jumping high so they want to kick high. So again, what they'll do is they'll change the angle to their roundhouse from a normal roundhouse where the heel, knee and hips are parallel to a angled 45-degree angle that looks halfway between a snap kick and a roundhouse. And again, this has no power. You can also injure yourself because you're kicking with your big toe first instead of the little toe side being the dominant turning side. So make sure you fully turn your hips over and the whole of your foot connects, not just the side of your big toe. The third common mistake is not good posture. What do I mean by this? Basic things like arms being out, not looking at your target, leaning back. All these things that throughout the videos you'll see consistent with me is that if I'm walking down the street, I want good posture. Guess what? If I'm doing these more difficult kicks, I want good posture. So keep your head up, focus on something forward, make sure that your hands are in. Again, what can help sometimes is people bring up their hands and turn their elbows so it comes with them. but you are keeping good posture throughout, and you're not sacrificing it by hunching your shoulders or turning away last minute or looking at the floor. All these bad things we want to stay away from, so good posture. Once you believe you have the kick down, it is always important to test the technique. I have devised 3 drills to test it. Drill number 1 is the line work paddle game. So for this one, it is a good idea to have a partner. You can use a shield, paddle, or focus pads. In the dojo we have these straight lines on the floor where the mats join, so you're going to stand on that. Your partner holds the paddle or whatever you're using, shield, focus pad, and lets you kick it, and then you turn the other way and kick it. Now what you're trying to do is you're trying to kick the target on the line and land on the line. So the takeoff will be important, the kick will be important, and the landing will be important. And again, as we're landing, we're bending those knees on the ball of the foot, and you just go all the way up the room. And this is a really good way to understand the 180 movement of the kick. The next test now is putting power into the kick. Again, as I said before in the common mistakes, often people do not fully rotate their hip, or they don't angle the kick correctly. So what I'm going to use now is I'm going to show you the kicks on a couple of smaller wave riders to show me putting power through the technique. And again, when you get up to the larger wave riders, the bob and the ones that weigh 250 pounds, you're probably not going to knock it over. I can't knock it over, but at least you will wobble it. So you are learning that you can put power into this technique and you're not just barely touching it and coming back. So it is important when you've got this technique down that we learn, like all techniques, how do you put power into them? And again, you can bounce on the spot, you can leap into it, whatever you need to do to begin with, but after a while I want you to start to jump without telegraph. Third and final drill will be difficult for those of you who don't have a bob, but the principle hopefully you'll get from watching the video. You need to clear the shoulders. So one of the ways you make sure you're not doing that arcing roundhouse, or you're not pulling your hip back and you're turning your hip over, is the bob has these great shoulders. So what I'm going to do is I'm trying to head kick bob at all levels, and you can start very low and build up to very high. But as soon as you hit that shoulder, you know you're doing the jump kick wrong. So again, quite difficult to do without this bit of equipment, but maybe you can jump over a soft object because you don't want to hurt yourself if you miss, and try and kick over that object. So your kick, no matter how high, is parallel to the floor, and you're maintaining that ankle, knee, hip movement. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial on the pop roundhouse or static jump roundhouse. It is a very difficult technique, but again, when you do land it correctly, it's a very satisfying technique and also a very aesthetically pleasing technique as well. So if you want to get a photo of it to check your technique, that's a good idea. Also, as always, these jump kicks should be making your basics easier. If you're enjoying the channel, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to see any techniques in the future, please leave a comment below and check out the playlist of all the other tutorials. And thank you very much for watching. Thanks.